بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome back to the spring semester, and inshallah we are starting a new subject. We will be talking about the Hayat al-Sahaba and then Al-Ashar al-Mubashirun bil-Jannah, which is the 10 Sahaba who were promised the Jannah in this world by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And of course, when we say Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the grand tithing, it means it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This part of the wahy, yeah? Let me just take this off here. It's too hot. Okay. So today it will be more of a introductory talk. I will not talk directly about any of those 10 Sahaba, but what do we expect from these talks? That will be inshallah the subject I will be covering today, and talk a little bit about the Sahaba themselves in general, and why we are talking about those 10 Sahaba as well, and a couple of short stories. And the later coming talks will have more stories inshallah, and we'll try to keep you guys engaged. And I was just talking to Yunus, inshallah, probably we'll do some sort of a Kahoot or something. I'm not sure if there'll be some gifts, but we'll see. So keep you guys engaged, and obviously you are engaged just for the knowledge purpose here. Inshallah, that will keep us engaged more. Okay, when it comes to Sahaba, alayhim, one of the key things to remember is Sahaba were not ordinary people. It's not because they were superhuman beings or something. They were human beings like you and me. But when it comes to what they achieved, there was an extraordinary generation. And about them, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has praised them. And that's why I'm saying that. Allah Azza wa Jal praised them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala referred to them as Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? So this is why I am saying that they were extraordinary from that perspective. Otherwise, the actions the Sahaba did, they are human actions and they can be repeated by us as well. And when we say this, it's not to by any means undermining the blessings of the Sahaba, their level among the mankind. It has nothing to do with that. It's just a reminder for us that the actions they did, they are doable, they are repeatable, and the way they achieved, the things they achieved for Islam, they are achievable for us as well. And that's the main purpose of us learning about the Sahaba as well. So we can emulate them, and as a matter of fact, we are actually commanded to follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, and Sahaba, as a matter of fact, there was a generation who showed us how to follow Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hence, it becomes important for us, and especially when we talk about the actions about which all the Sahaba agreed upon, ijma' of the Sahaba. That's a completely different subject of its own. That becomes a source for us to extract rulings from that as well. So Sahaba was an extraordinary generation, but at the same time, we find that there are many of us who have names like the names of the Sahaba. Yeah, we name our kids. At least I can tell you myself. All my 3 kids are named after different Sahaba. And I know many of us, this is what they do, or named after prophets. The reason is these are our real heroes. These are the people that we put at the pedestal, and they are the only ones for us. They belong there. Yeah, we should not be looking up to anybody but the heroes of Islam for us to follow. And what we find in their lives is the kind of hardship they went through. The way they had the tawakkul, the reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the iman they had, the taqwa they had. Now, these are the lessons that we want to learn from them. And the kind of challenges that they went through, today we find ourselves going through very similar kind of challenges. Very similar challenges. Hence, we have a lot to learn from them, inshallah, and that will be our goal, to learn from it. Now, to be clear, the main goal that, inshallah, that my target will be, that I'd like to achieve out of these talks about the Sahaba's life is, we want to make ourselves, our personalities, mold our personalities in a way that we are able to think, meaning when we are passing a judgment on anything, our source of judgment becomes Islam. So we use Islam to make judgments of right and wrong, halal and haram, that we say, whatsoever kind of action that we're talking about, whatever things that we are looking at, we look at from the lens of Islam that we want to practice ourselves. We want to create personalities this way. And but that's not sufficient. That we know that what Allah Azza wa Jal wants from us. We also want to make sure that we have personalities, not only we look at the things from the perspective of Islam, but also we act accordingly. So these both things have to go hand in hand. That we think correctly and we act correctly. Okay? So this is the main goal of these talks, inshallah. Now, when it comes to the status of Sahaba, Allah Azza wa Jal talks about them and says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَالسَّابِقُونَ الْأَوَّلُونَ مِنَ الْمُهَاجِرِينَ وَالْأَنصَارِ وَالَّذِينَ اتَّبَعُوهُم بِإِحْسَانٍ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that at first, talking about وَالسَّابِقُونَ, the one who were ahead of all, yeah, the one, the first one who embraced Islam, and the one from the Muhajirin. Muhajirin are the immigrants, the one who migrated for the sake of Islam to Medina. Yeah, Medina, because that was Darul Islam. So that hijrah, when people make from Darul Shirk or Darul Kufr to Darul Islam, that is a migration, that's called immigration. These are the people who are referred as Muhajirin. And Ansar. Ansar were the people who helped the Sahaba and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina to establish the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal in Medina. Yeah? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not only those, but all those people who followed them as well. Yeah? وَالَّذِينَ تَبَعُوهُم, they're the one who followed them as well. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the great status to achieve. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam also talked about the generation of the Sahaba when he said, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ قَرْنِي, the best of the generation is my generation. Talking about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was accompanied by the Sahaba, Ridwanullah alayhim, and then said, ثُمَّ قَرْنِي يَلَوْنَاهُم, and then the one that followed it, ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلَوْنَهُم ثُمَّ يَجِيء, and then it says then one after and one after. So and then Rasulullah did not mention more. So three of them Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that the first generation is the best, then the next, and then the next. But it's not talking about individual Sahabi like this. Talking about the whole generation of the Sahaba. Okay? And then afterwards people will come who will give testimony before swearing an oath and swear an oath before giving testimony. This hadith is reported by both Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim. And we know that when a hadith is reported by both of these books, this is called muttafaqun alayh. Muttafaqun alayh means the hadith which is reported by these both of the muhaddithin. But in general, that is one of the highest level of authenticity when it comes to the authenticity of a hadith. And I'm not talking about the categorization from the perspective of ahad and mutawatir. I'm just talking about if you take a single chain and it's reported by both of the books, it's one of the highest level of authenticity of a hadith. Now, Rasulullah ﷺ also mentioned that no one loves, if none loves the Ansar but a believer, and none hates them but a hypocrite. This is part of being a believer, that we love Al-Ansar. And the people who hate Al-Ansar, Ansar again are those Sahaba who helped Rasulullah ﷺ and the Sahaba to establish the deen in Medina. And whoever hates them, they are hypocrites. So Allah will love him who loves them, and He will hate him who hates them. So loving the Sahaba Ridwanullah alayhim is part of our deen. And again, what does it mean by the love? Love means that we follow them, follow their right traits. Okay? Alright. Now, as we are going to talk about the 10 promise, 10 promise the paradise, even though hadith talks about, one of the hadith talks about these 10, and we hear all the time, yeah, the 10 promise, the Jannah. But Rasulullah ﷺ also promised the Jannah for many other Sahaba as well. Like for example, the one who participated in the Battle of Badr. Rasulullah ﷺ said about the people who participated in the Battle of Badr and Sulh Hudaybiyah, the one who participated in the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Rasulullah ﷺ said that the hellfire will not touch them. So we know in Badr there were about 313 or 317, 300 plus Sahaba who participated. When it comes to Treaty of Hudaybiyah, some of the reports talk about 1400, some say 16, some say 1800 of Sahaba who participated in that Sulh or treaty. So this is a huge number as well. It's not only that, but 10 were specifically mentioned. Besides these 10, there are hadith who talk about, the hadith that talk about other Sahaba as well. For example, a hadith that talks about Bilal radiallahu anhu, that he is from the people of Jannah. Similarly, hadith talks about Usayram, the one person who delayed his Islam until the Battle of Uhud. And right before Battle of Uhud, he accepted Islam and he was martyred. And Rasulullah talked about him that he did little but he achieved a lot. He did not pray a single rak'ah, as the hadith talk about, and he was referred as a prayer from the people of Jannah. Similarly, hadith talks about Rumaysa radiallahu anha, for example. She was from the people of Jannah. Yeah? And Khadija radiallahu anha, she was from the people of Jannah. And so on and so on. There's about 28 or so number is mentioned by names besides these 10. And on top of it, as I mentioned, about the people of Hudaybiyah, the people who were present at the time of the Surah Hudaybiyah, and the people who participated in Badr, they were also mentioned as the people of Jannah. They will not be touched by the hellfire. Now, about the 10 promise. There are many hadith which are reported by Sunan Ibn Majah, or Tirmidhi, Sunan Abi Dawood, and many different books of the hadith. And there are Sahih hadith, meaning they are authentic hadith. And they talk about that, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned as well the hadith reported by Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anh. He said, Rasulullah said that Abu Bakr fil Jannah, wa Umar fil Jannah, wa Uthman fil Jannah, wa Ali fil Jannah, wa Talha fil Jannah, wa Zubayr fil Jannah, wa Abdurrahman bin Auf fil Jannah, wa Sa'ad fil Jannah, wa Sa'id fil Jannah, wa Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah fil Jannah. These are the 10 which are mentioned. So now, all of you know all these 10 names, right? So if I ask you guys now, you can repeat after me, yeah? Okay, no. Next week probably. But look, it sounds like a joke here, but many of us, if the things that we are interested in, for example, you are interested in NBA, you will be repeating all the stats and the names of all the players left and right. I know one person who lives in my house who can do that. That's why I'm saying that. Yeah. So similarly, there are people who can name people who are movie stars, for example, celebrities, so-called. That's sad that when it comes to even, I'm not talking about 313 or 1400 from the Sulh Hudaybiyah or Badr, but these 10, and it should be much easier when we know that out of these 10, 4 of them are Khulafa Rashidin, which are often repeated, so all of us are well aware of them. So the issue is we have to question ourselves. Where does our interest lie? Are we really interested in something? If we are, we should be able to remember it. Okay? It's a matter of interest. And we know that, how people remember things, the things that they are interested in. So the question should be asked, how much do we love these Sahaba? how much we are looking up to them, so we learn from their actions so we can repeat these things. Yeah? Okay, so these are the 10 names, inshallah, and what we'll be doing. Unfortunately, I don't have, what do you call this, the connector to connect to the HDMI and put on the projector. It's very interesting. All of them, because they were from Mecca anyways, they all connected back to the lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. Inshallah, next week I'll try to show it properly. So all of them connect back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at different levels of the lineage, but they all connect back. And they all are connected back to Quraysh as well. When I'm saying Quraysh, Quraysh was the name of one of the leaders within the lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we know the lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is mentioned in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. Some part of the lineage is authenticated by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith. Other parts are ambiguous, and there are some which are for sure they're mistakes in it. Like the one that goes back from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Quraysh and so on and so forth. There's a hadith which are Adnan, up to Adnan that goes. They are very clearly mentioned by the hadith. Then there are weak hadith that talks about lineage from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam up to Ibrahim alayhi salam. And then there are, of course, unauthenticated reports and stuff from Israeliyat that goes back to Adam alayhi salam as well. Yeah? In fact, anybody has a book, Rahik al-Makhtum here, which I think is reported back from Ibn Hisham. He reports all these three different lineages of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the category in the order that I just mentioned. Okay, now since we are going to talk about Sahaba, we should know basics of a Sahabi. When we say a Sahabi, what is a Sahabi? What is the definition of a Sahabi? And there are many definitions. As a matter of fact, for a Muhaddith may have a different definition than a Faqih. And how do we extract taking the sayings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from them? Now, the two of the definitions are the most famous one. One is a Muslim who saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's it. In the state of Islam, he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, that person has to die in the state of Islam as well. Right? Now, the second hadith or second definition is a Muslim who lived with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for 1 or 2 years, or participated in 1 or 2 battles with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, this definition, the second one that I mentioned, it is reported by Tabi'i, a famous Tabi'i, Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib. He is one of the greatest Tabi'in of his time, and he is the one who reported that about he has a person who saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the state of Islam and stayed with him for a year or 2, or he participated in 1 or 2 battles with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one of the reports by Imam al-Muzani, he mentioned in his Sharh al-Burhan, he says that we do not mean by Sahaba those who met him for a day or 2, or those who attended him for some business and left. We mean those who followed him, helped him, and were guided by the light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and revealed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and those are the ones attained felicity. These are the ones we're talking about. Now, there's another one which is reported by Shu'bah, and he mentions that Musa al-Sibilani, whom he spoke appreciatively about, that he said, I said to Anas bin Malik, are there any companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam other than you? Anas bin Malik was one of the last one who passed away. Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, and he was very old, I think he was in his 90s when he passed away, and he met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at a very young age. Okay, so now, when it was asked to him, is there anybody left besides him? And he said, there are still many Arab who saw him, who saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As for his companions, he said no. Meaning, even though there were people who saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the state of Islam, but he did not refer to them as a Sahaba. Okay, that's the definition of Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu, one of the Sahaba Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, today, as I said, I just want to put the grounds of what we will be discussing in the coming talks. But I'd like to talk about a couple of stories so we have an understanding of what these Sahaba were like. Okay? And this Sahabi's name, maybe not many people know. But I like to talk about it because that story always strikes me. The story is about Abdullah bin Hudafa, radiallahu anhu. Anyone of you heard this name before? Just heard? Yeah? Okay, so Abdullah bin Hudafa, radiallahu anhu, he was one of the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was from Banu Sahm. Okay, so he was a Sahmi. And in one of the battles, he became a prisoner of war to the Romans. And they took him to their king. Now this king, he had something stuck in his head. He wanted to convert a Sahabi Rasulullah sallallahu to Christianity. Okay? So now he was trying to say, he was challenging him in a way, or challenging or throwing bait at him. He said, I will make you a part owner of my kingdom. Not only that, and I will marry you, my daughter as well. Will you become Christian? If you become Christian. And his response was that even if you give me all what you possess and all what the Arabs possess, and remember, this incident happened in the time of the era of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. Umar bin Khattab's time, Islam spread very fast. Yeah? The Muslim armies were conquering the areas that were ruled by Romans and Persians. These were two superpowers at that time. So he said, even if you give me all what you have, all what the Arabs own today, even then, by the blink of an eye, I will reject all this if you ask me to leave the deen of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he said, then, if that's the case, king said, I will kill you. And his response was, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. And then he said, okay, ordered him to be crucified. But when he was hung up to be crucified, they asked him to throw the arrows near his arms and legs. Don't kill him right now. They're trying to threaten him. And again they asked him, and his response was solid answer, no. Then they brought a pot, copper pot, and they put they boiled it. And he commanded one of the other prisoners of war among the Muslims to be thrown into that pot, boiling pot. And Abdullah bin Hudafa radiallahu anhu, he was looking at it when this prisoner of war was thrown into the pot. Right away he died. I mean, his skin and the flesh was separated from the bones. Now, so nowadays the king ordered Abdullah bin Hudafa should be thrown into that pot as well. Now he was already on the crucified, so they were using the pulley to tilt him over into the pot. While they were doing that, Abdullah bin Hudafa, he wept. He cried. So now they thought that, okay, they got him now. So they said, okay, are you willing to become Christian now? He said no. So the question was, why was he crying then? He said he was crying because he only had one soul. And after they will throw him into the pot, that will be over. He said he wished that he had as many souls as number of hair on his body. And each soul goes through this pain for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why he was crying that he only has one soul. Now, the king was surprised. He wanted to break him. Then he said, there's another report also I'll talk about later, but then he said, okay, I'll let you go if you come and kiss my forehead. He said, only if, I'll do that, because it's not the haram part here anymore. Only if you free all the Muslims which are prisoner of war. And upon that, king said, okay, this king had to get some way, he's a king. So Abdullah bin Hudafa radiallahu anhu, he kissed his forehead and he was able to free all the prisoners of war, and they were taken back to Medina. But Abdullah bin Hudafa arrived in Medina, and the story reached to Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. So Umar went to Abdullah bin Hudafa and he commanded everybody in Medina, come and kiss the forehead of Abdullah bin Hudafa and Umar will start first. And Umar went ahead and he kissed the forehead of Abdullah ibn Hudafa, followed by the others, because the kind of respect that he gained by the actions he did. Another reports talk about him that he was thrown into the prison as well. And when he was thrown into prison, he was deprived of food and water. And when after many days that he was not given food and water, they gave him wine and pork to eat. And he refused to eat that. And the king said, you are allowed to see, subhanAllah, they were aware of this, or even, that in these circumstances, Sharan, you are allowed. Islamically, you were allowed to eat. Why didn't you eat? He said, I don't want to give you even that pleasure, that you were able to break me that I ate pork or drank wine, even though it was allowed. This is the kind of the Sahaba that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam nurtured, prepared, the one who was resilient, the one who was firm in their deen, and this is the kind of a work they did. The result is that we find the Muslims all around the world. We are the result of the work that they did centuries ago. Now, it's our time now. It's our time to repeat that was done, and inshallah, it's not only that the glory of Allah's name will be glorified more, Allah's name gets glorified no matter what. But the deen will prevail, and the mankind can see that what the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal offers to the mankind. Now, when you talk about this, many a times what happens is, this question comes to the mind, man, those were Sahaba. How can we do that, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was present. How are we going to do the things that those Sahaba did? By the way, that is true. Of course, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is among us. That would be great to have a prophet among us. But at the same time, that should not be a barrier for us to do what Allah has commanded us. Like a story again of a great Sahabi of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His name was Al-Miqdad bin Aswad radiyallahu anhu. Al-Miqdad radiyallahu anhu, he was sitting with Jubayr bin Nufayr radiyallahu anhu. They were both sitting, a guy passed by. And he praised the eyes of Miqdad. He praised that these are the eyes who saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wished that he was at the time and he would have done this or that, present at that time. Now, when Miqdad heard that, Miqdad got angry. You know, most of us probably when you hear this, you would not realize why would Miqdad get angry for that. It sounds like a very decent remark. He's praising him because he met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But his response was, he said, you don't know what these eyes have seen. While Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there were people who were present at that time and they rejected him. They rejected the deen. So you don't know what you would have done if you were at that time. Because there were people who rejected the deen. And then he said, and there are people who are our family members. Could be siblings, could be brothers, parents, could be sisters, could be husband, wife, or children, whoever they were, the relatives. They also rejected the deen. They rejected Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we were aware of that. If they would have died in that state, they would be people of the hellfire. So that was very painful for them, and from that perspective as well. And he said, why do you crave for something or have a hope for something that Allah did not decree for you? Allah did not decree for you, because this is not under our control, right? Which era, which time, which family, which household we are born in. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who decided where we are born, at what time we are born. So why are you hoping for something that Allah did not decree for you? Hence, Allah decreed for you to be at this time, then we should be aware of that. This is the right time for us. And we are accountable for the time we are in. Capabilities we have, or the resources we have, things we have around us. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do the things according to our capabilities. So when we are studying or hearing about the lives of the Sahaba, keep that in mind. Whatever they achieve, whatever feats they achieve, or Rasulullah even the actions he did, we're not talking about the actions which are miraculous action, bi'idhnillah, was performed by Rasulullah, but the actions that he performed as a prophet that we are commanded to follow him. Those are human actions. And all those capabilities we all have. So we have to start, while we are listening to these stories about the Sahaba, make up your mind and prepare the mind this way, that what we are hearing, these are doable for us as well. We can do that as well, inshallah, and we will be able to bring Islam back to not only for us as individuals, but to show to the whole world that how merciful this way of life is. And it's not because it is coming from a prophet who was an Arab, or the people who are bringing, they can read or write Arabic or something, and they refer to themselves as Arab. It has nothing to do with that. The Rasulullah was sent as a mercy for the whole mankind. And this message is for the whole mankind. And the whole mankind can really see the mercy in this message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially in the times that are coming up, as we can see, that how the things are rapidly changing around the world, and how the corruption is continuously increasing, and it's on a hike. It's continuously increasing, and the people are suffering. It's not because of Islam, as a matter of fact, it is because of lack of Islam. Inshallah, when Islam comes back, we will be able to show what the true mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is.